Hello, this is Jay Denson, and welcome to another episode of Fit Health Well. As many of you know, I moved to Canada, and I met a lot of amazing people since I've been out here. And this is a part two conversation of, I want to describe it. When I spoke to Garrison Red, we throw the term around disability and things like that, but I like able with limitations, right? Because a lot of these people, and I got to coin Garrison Red on that. That was pretty dope that he came up with. They are able, right? It's just like they may be limited in some capacity. I was really feeling that actually when I first heard it. And we want to get this thing trending. Again, I know the norm term is disability. But what I love about telling these stories and giving these highlights is that, it serves as a source of motivation. And even if you are disabled or you're out there living your life, and I don't care what kind of activity you're doing, whether you're powerlifting, you rock climbing, you're playing sports, you serve as a source of motivation. And I just wanted to keep that conversation going and going into my next episode. And this gentleman here, man, is really, really super cool dude. I met him through my wife's friend, and me and him clicked immediately when I met him. And he's an athlete for Wheelchair Canada. And then in addition to that, he was elected to the Olympic team, the Olympic Canadian team, and he was scheduled to participate in the Pan Am Games in Peru this year. But, we're going to get a little update on that because we know COVID threw a wrench in a lot of people's plans. But, this brother's pretty dope. He plays basketball. We had many conversations about that as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Deion Nathaniel Green. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Jay, I'm great. Glad to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you, man. So, before we get into everything, just in terms of the athletic part of it, because, you truly are an athlete, just give everybody a little background about your story and what you've been up to and what led you up to this point.
So I got into wheelchair basketball when I was 10, just kind of randomly. Like I played stand-up with my friends, and was really enjoying doing that. But as time goes on, they all got taller, and unfortunately, I did not. So I wanted to find a way to still have fun and be competitive. And just through word of mouth, my dad heard that they were holding practices in Richmond, either in the same facility or near the same facility that the Vancouver Grizzlies used to practice in. So we just went out there the one week and checked it out, and I saw that right away, and I've been in love ever since. It's been what I've been doing.
Nice, that's dope. Now, in terms of your disability, what was the nature of that, right? Because our listeners, when they listen to the last episode, I know specifically with Garrison Red's incident, he was shot, unfortunately, which led him to be paralyzed. But what was your situation, and how did you learn to live with it?
So I'm a congenital amputee, which means I was born with a disability pretty much. I was born with my tibia bones missing, which is like the thicker of the two shin bones. So had that and had some other health issues. So the doctors, took my parents aside and they gave them two options. You can amputate, or he could live his life in a wheelchair. And they took their time and they made their decision to amputate. So when I was 4.5 months, I had the lower half of both my legs amputated, and just been kind of doing my thing since then. It's all I know. I didn't, compared to people like Gareth or anyone else, I didn't lose anything. I've never known anything else. So
and that's an interesting, definitely, that's an interesting perspective, really, just because it's all you knew, and you knew how to live with it, right? In terms of a contrast of someone that, they had their legs and then they lost it and they kind of had to readjust to it. But in terms of comparison, I'm pretty sure you knew how to deal with this. Did you ever feel limited in your life at any point? Whether your friends and families in terms of what they were doing, or it was just status quo for you?
So I did everything that everybody else did, but there were sometimes small things that people don't think about. Like we all go to the movies, and for the first 5 rows there's a railing, and for the last 15 rows there's no railing. when I would wear my prosthetics, I can't get up those last 15 rows.
Mm.
So it's just like small, completely random things like that. And like there are big things which I can't, like, I don't know. I might not be able to rock climb as effectively, or I might not be able to do something as effectively, but I still do them.
Absolutely. Now I want to definitely get into the athletics part because, like you said, you was introduced to basketball at the age of 10, and that's pretty dope. Walk us through that. Like, what was that like, just transitioning into when you first started playing? Up until your adulthood when you started, making the Canadian team.
Yeah. Well, it was nice. Like playing with my friends, nobody ever treated me like I was the disabled kid. But like it's just something that kind of like goes on without being said. Like everybody knows it, but no one talks about it. So when I found wheelchair basketball, it was sort of the opposite. Like we all talk about being disabled, like not like, I don't know, like a sense of pride almost. Like we all have a disability. We're all on the equal playing field here. So it really comes down to who wants it more, who's going to work harder, who has some of that natural born talent, compared to when I was playing with my friends, where it was like they can just physically run faster than I can. There's nothing I'm ever going to be able to do about that. So it was nice to be put on a even playing field and to feel almost more comfortable with your peers, I guess.
And I guess it was more of an even playing field, exactly like you said, when you were playing with your peers, people that shared, the same disabilities you did. But I think it's amazing too, even when you were playing, in the park, with your other friends, like
Yeah.
for them to welcome you, right? Like you show up in the pickup game, and of course, like you can't run up and down the court, but I'm pretty sure you can shoot and do things like that. My
Yeah.
question to you, and I just have to ask this: did they let up, or did they play you like you was a regular person on the court?
It depended. It depended. Like if I hit a couple threes in their face or something, they might try to push out on me a little harder. But I'm so short that like Muggsy Bogues almost, like how are my 6 foot friends gonna get the ball from me when it is 2 feet off the ground, you know?
Exactly.
And one was really big when I was a kid, when we were kids and stuff. So I'm putting the ball in the shirt and spinning it around and dribbling it one time behind them and faking left and having them spinning around and stuff, because they're having to look down to do everything. So
And in terms of your game, right? Because I would imagine, like, just to prevent them from blocking your shot, maybe you had to adjust and shoot it at an arc.
yeah,
Where you like was where what were the benefits from it, right? Like, did you get any good benefits from it that was able to transition into the wheelchair athletics?
I wouldn't say any benefits, but just like being out there and like having like a basic basketball IQ and getting touches on the ball and knowing how to change those angles and how to gauge distances and stuff like that. Definitely transitioned into wheelchair basketball. Um, but I wouldn't really say that much of the two are the same. Like the rules are the same, and I guess like the shooting's different. Like in one you're jumping and one you're sitting. Yeah.
And yeah, and then now that you speak to that, because that's actually a really good point and a question, because I'm ignorant in that area. What is what is the breakdown in terms of wheelchair back? Like, is it 4 quarters? Do you guys do 4 quarter, 12-minute quarters?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Okay.
is it the same thing? Or?
I'll break it down. No, so we vary a little bit. So we play a FIBA size court, not a NBA court. So like the 3 point line is maybe a foot closer than the NBA. It's all the same FIBA. I'm not sure about the dimensions, but it's the FIBA court. And then we play 10-foot hoop, 4 quarters. They're not 12 minutes, they're 10 minutes each. You get a halftime. You still play three in the key. There's no double dribble, but there is traveling. So you get 2 pushes instead of 2 steps. So you can put the ball in your lap and you can push with 2 hands. You could push, say, with just one wheel with your left hand, which would be a push. You could go the second one with your right. You could go backwards for 1 push, like any kind of variation of that. Let me think of any other rules we got. Like I said, there's no double dribble. I think everything else is pretty much the same. Like you still can draw charges. Still blocking fouls. There's still shooting fouls. Like all that stuff.
And in terms of engagement, and this is, I'd have to ask you this prior to COVID. Were people into it? Like, did it draw crowds and things like that?
Yeah, it's the highest watched Paralympic sport at the Paralympics.
Oh, nice. Now
Like
then,
that,
yeah, go ahead.
like,
What were you saying?
it's like wheelchair basketball and wheelchair rugby and like one other thing, I think. but wheelchair basketball is usually right up there. Like the tickets for all the games were sold out like a few months before the Olympics was supposed to even happen.
That's amazing. And hopefully, man, like once this COVID thing gets into control, man, we can kind of get back to sports a little the way we used to remember it. Right now,
Yeah.
you know, I'm pretty sure you being a basketball head like myself, we got the whole virtual fan thing going on here,
Yeah.
and stuff like that, right? So, all right, so there's two things that I want to get into. Walk us through pretty much you making the Canadian team, and then also transitioning to the Canadian Paralympics, and how did that come about?
So you kind of just like you start local. Like I was playing in BC. You kind of get like I got scouted for like the kind of junior provincial team, and I started playing on that, going to tournaments, and then I got my chance to be with like the senior provincial team, and I went to a couple nationals with the guys, and it's like all like just a bunch of veteran players, like guys who either played in BC forever or played in like for Team Canada. They have gold medals from Paralympics and other things, so it's just like the experience I was getting was unbelievable. So I'm at the provincial level, and then you kind of just get put on a radar really, because like there's not the same pool of athletes as there is in able-bodied sports. So you kind of like even from almost immediately when you start, you're kind of just thrown in this pool of athletes that has potential for later on. So I got my first invite to men's tryout / camp would have been 2014. And that was back when we had tryouts in Vegas. That was a lot of fun. And we just tried out for the team. I think the first year I was an alternate, and then my first year on like officially on the squad was 2015 when we had Toronto Pan Am Games in Toronto. And then had to train pretty hard that year, 2016, because it was a Paralympic year, but it was also my first Paralympics, so I was like trying to look like I belonged. And, it was a real grind. Like trained like a job, like Monday to Friday. We had 2 on-court sessions, lifting 3 times a week, mental performance workshops, nutrition workshops, all kinds of stuff like that. And then finally, in January 2016, there would have been a week of tryouts, and did that tryouts. You get your meetings at the end, and coach told me I'd been selected to the team.
Nice.
It might not have been January. It might have been later in the year, but it was sometime kind of earlier in 2016. And yeah, so got selected, and we just kept grinding it out the rest of that summer, doing our traveling and our kind of warm-up tournaments, and then we went to the Paralympics, and it was kind of a letdown performance-wise. We didn't do very well, but the overall experience and like the camaraderie you get from your team, from your boys, like the squad, and just all that, like it can't be rivaled, it can't be replaced. Like it was just amazing.
Nice. Now, with this being Fit Health Well, and this is a health and wellness brand and podcast, you spoke a little bit about training, right? In terms of nutrition and things like that. If it's someone listening to this, and they're like in their wheelchair and they'd like to be an athlete, walk us through like what's your training like lifting and what are you eating when you are training for these Olympic Games?
Okay, so it would vary a little bit disability to disability, because as an amputee, I can move around, and that would help you shed some of the weight, sort of like an AB would. So somebody with a spinal cord injury that's sitting in a chair might have a harder time to shed it, but I would say that we're pretty much all doing the same things that like an AB athlete would be doing. You watch what you eat, you try to prepare your own meals, you're making sure you're getting that necessary exercise. And if like you're a high level athlete, it's not just that simple exercise. If you want to have your training scheduled down, so you know what you're doing each day, you're making sure you're hitting those certain goals. You're talking to the nutritionist, like maybe you need to take something out, or maybe you need to up something that you didn't even know about. We do a blood test at the beginning of each season, so you check all your vitamins and all that stuff. So the doc and the therapist can tell you if you need some sort of supplements or any sort of thing like that. So I guess a shortened answer to all that would be sort of the same way that any other athlete would be doing it. You just monitor what you're putting into your body and making sure that you're getting the greatest output.
Absolutely. And then in terms of the actual game, and things like that, like, what is some of your practice drills like? Like you guys taking jump shots, or like, how's that stuff working out too?
So it would, I guess I could kind of walk you through like a week. So like say come in and it's a Monday, and on Monday we're gonna work on 3-on-3. So coach will break us up into 3-on-3 teams, and we'll do any sort of 3-on-3 drills. So let's say there's a picking drill. I guess how would I? So in stand-up basketball, they run a lot of screens. Buddy just stands there. They try to rub the defender off. That's what we call a pick and roll, pretty much in wheelchair basketball. So the person on offense would have the ball. There's a defender. Your teammate would come up and screen or pick off that defender, and then you attack. But because it's wheelchairs and you're taking up a lot of space, when you come off of that pick and roll, you come off in a numbers advantage, because that person you picked out is like full on out. They can't just move laterally and like slide back in and chase you. So you'd run maybe a picking drill like that, or you could run 3-on-3, what we call shadow. So three line up on the baseline, and say you would go from your boundary would be baseline to the middle of the court, and you would go all the way down the court in like kind of a skinny lane like that. So 3 people on the baseline, 3 people just inside the baseline, and the 3 people on offense have to make it to the other end of the court. So the people on defense, you just try to keep those 3 players from making it to the other end. You do that, like the one team gets all the way to the end, you switch and you go back and you run that back and forth until coach calls switch, and you switch teams or you switch to a different drill. Could be some variation on shooting. Like all the shooting drills would pretty much be the same, with the exception of like jumping.
Yeah.
But you're squared up, someone's closing on you, or you're doing like a shot fake dribble, two dribble resets. You're putting the ball down, you're going left, you're going right, then you're taking your shot. Or you were doing like start at the 3-point line, and you have 2 minutes to hit 20 layups left and right. So you go in on your right, you take it, you get a point. If you hit it, you don't get a point. If you don't hit it, you go back to the 3-point line. One wheel touches that. You come in, you take a left layup, do that for 2 minutes, see if you hit 20. Just all kinds of variations on things
And
like that.
And free throws as well as included in the game, right? In terms that's all the same. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. In 2015, I saw you showing some bling bling. You had a medal. What was that medal for?
Yeah, we got silver in Toronto and in Peru this past summer actually as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now speaking of that, so did you go to Peru, or like what happened? Because I know COVID shut a lot of things down.
Yeah, so we went to Peru. Like I didn't like we went to Peru last summer, and then we went to like COVID was just kind of like starting to really make the news, and then we went to Japan in like November or December or something, and we got super lucky. We missed the cutoff by like 3 days. Like if we would have came back 3 days later, we would have had to self quarantine for like 2 weeks and all this stuff. But yeah, I'm like, what's the date today? I'm probably originally supposed to be somewhere playing basketball right now.
Yeah.
But it got postponed for the summer until next summer. So.
Okay, so that's pretty much the climate, right? I would assume everything has been pushed to 2021.
Yeah. At least the big event. I don't know about like all the leading up. Like we were supposed to have a summer full of tournaments. I think we're going to Spain, or Spain was coming here. Australia was coming here. We were going to Italy or Colorado, like just a bunch of places before Tokyo, but all that got shut down. And I don't know if they're gonna reopen those tournaments next summer or not, or if it's just gonna be kind of train on your own. Everybody go to the tournament, stay safe, and then leave.
Oh, definitely. Well, I know everything is being pushed back, like we just discussed, and things like that. But is it anything that you got coming up, or is it any community-based events, or anything in terms of awareness, in terms of the sport? Like what's on tap, at least for the rest of 2019, if anything?
We just got back to training. Like I'm about to have my first day back on Tuesday. So
nice.
So pretty much just that. Just reintegrating, kind of trying to get my body back into proper basketball form, and then slowly get back into like full squad training, because right now they just pretty much broke all the courts up into single. Like you get a quarter of a court and a hoop, and you just shoot by yourself, do whatever drills you want by yourself. Like you can't do any team drills or anything because we're still supposed to be social distancing. So pretty much just slowly working back into actually being able to practice with the squad and stuff.
Nice. And if there's anybody, this is definitely the most important part of the show. And I'm gonna just, I like to do these little recaps of the conversation just because I feel like they're important, for our listeners. Again, I definitely wanted to have Deion on today because, I myself, I just learned about the sport of wheelchair basketball, right? Like even the rules and things like that. So, you definitely gave us a breakdown, which was very, very important. And thank you for that. And in terms of, just the proper conditioning, and just what you have to do and what's different. And what I was delighted to hear about is, it doesn't sound like it doesn't feel, and me knowing you personally, it doesn't even feel like you're limited at all. And even when we hang out and we chill, like I don't see a disability, I see a person. And I think in society, that's what we need to do better at, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't look at things like that, man. It's like even right now, if you was like, yo, Jay, let's go play some ball, and I'm an active person, I'd be like, all right, cool. You pick out the court, let's go.
Yeah.
You see me in the park when I was running every day, doing 300 miles for the summer. So I love your spirit, and although it was something that you were born with, you didn't let that limit you. So I think that's dope. But I do want to leave on a message, and with that message being is it could be some young kid out there right now, right, struggling with their disability, and maybe
Yeah.
they love sports and they don't know how to approach it. What would you say to them?
I would say just go for it. Like try to get into contact with any wheelchair sports organization in either your city or the closest city to you with a wheelchair sports association or organization of any sort. And just go check it out. Like even if you don't want to go all in that first time, like just really go give it a look. Talk to some people. Feel out the environment. Like kind of like I touched on in the beginning. Sometimes when you're disabled or you become disabled, you kind of feel like that outlier, like that outsider. But it's really comfortable to be with, for lack of a better term, like with your own people.
Exactly.
It helps take some of that nervousness off or that stress off, and it'll help. It just, even if you don't want to play competitively, it really helps just to be active and to lift your spirits and to have fun.
I hear you. And now, again, I had this conversation too. I know the States is making good strides in this. There may be a corporation, or it may be the government and things like that, because the climate could be different in Canada or even globally as you travel, just based off of your prior inconveniences and experiences, what can the public do just in terms of accommodations can be done better? You know what I mean? Like I know like there's ramps and there's things like that, but there may be something that you see in your everyday life that's not being addressed. Is it anything that you've noticed that businesses or even just society can help in terms of accommodations?
Something that me and my teammates joke about a lot is we always joke that whoever's setting up the auto push buttons for doors places does not have a disability, because they're never in convenient places. They're either way off to the side or the door, you got to get really close to the door and the door opens up, so you got to get out of the way. It's always something weird. We always joke about those. So whoever's in charge of that, I think they should get a disabled consultant to help them.
There we go. I like that too. Exactly. And definitely I would say too, we got all these diversity groups just in general. And I know racially we have a lot of diversity groups, but yeah, we need to start consulting with people that have, disabilities, or, at least have them on the panel to address these. So again, if you've listened to that, that's definitely one takeaway. And that's an initiative that, I definitely want to make sure that that's being communicated. So, again, thank you so much, Deion, for being on here today. I really appreciate it. You gave us a lot of insight just in terms of, wheelchair basketball, which I think is pretty dope. And just I don't even think personally, it's not even an inconvenience for you. You've learned how to live with it, right? It's pretty dope. And again, like I said, I wanted to, we spoke to the fitness aspect of it, which is great. There's also a wellness aspect of it, and the mental wellness part of it is, again, like I said, somebody may bump into this podcast by accident, and may be dealing with depression from it, and I always, want to acknowledge that and make sure that I have some type of outlet for someone to listen to draw a sense of inspiration. So Deion, thank you so much for coming on today. And finally, before we get out of here, if anyone wants to follow you on Instagram, how can they follow you?
My ad is DNGYYJ.
Definitely. And are your games, are they streamed or anything as well for people to watch, or?
Yeah, you could probably, if you looked up Wheelchair Basketball Canada on Facebook, there might be some old logged in games. But if you really wanted to just like watch wheelchair basketball, you could look it up on YouTube or search International Wheelchair Basketball Federation on Facebook, and they should have a catalog of old games, and you could watch any country, any game. There's some really good gold medal games out there.
Awesome. So there you go. If you definitely want to educate yourself, or you kind of want to get into just know a little bit more about wheelchair basketball, definitely use those resources. And then just to keep tabs on him, 2020, I'm pretty sure he's going to be very active. We'll have his Instagram posted up, so make sure you follow him on Instagram. But again, Deion, thank you so much for being on today, man. It was definitely delightful to have you and insightful to get that information from you. And I really, really appreciate it, man.
Oh, I love being on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. And if I can ever do anything for you, just in terms of promoting any initiatives you have or any games or things like that, I got you 100%. And again, I want to thank the listeners for tuning in each and every week. As you guys know, every Friday I have a brand new episode with a professional or someone with an amazing story. Or if I have to do a recap on something, I will do a recap, but I will be sure to bring you new content every Friday. And again, if you'd like to reach out to us and you would like to either be on the show or just chit chat, you can send us an email at fithealthwell@gmail.com. And again, the central hub for anything related to Fit Health Well is the website, fithealthwell.com. And then again, if you'd like to follow us, make sure you follow us on Instagram, Fit Health Well. You'd like to check us out on Facebook, Fit Health Well. We keeping it real consistent here. We are trying to grow Twitter as well, and it is Fit Health Well CA. Okay, so thank you guys very much. Another great episode, and I love you guys for listening and subscribing. Please make sure you subscribe, you like, you share. It helps us grow. It helps me continue to bring you professionals and amazing stories. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love you.